r/ask Reddit. What are some useful psychological facts or tricks one should know? Little kids are literally incapable of seeing others' perspectives. It's called theory of mind and you don't get it until you're 5 or so. Before that you're like a little sociopath. Which is weird, because dogs have a theory of mind. That's why they always want the food you have. They know you know things they don't. My dog never takes my food. I once accidentally left half a sub sitting on the coffee table when I went to work. I came back to find it untouched. Does this mean he's an idiot or extra smart? I always get the two confused. Also regarding this theory, kids are literally narcissists. Early psychologists theorized narcissism to be a regression to a childlike mental state. They do seem like people who never grew emotionally or maturity-wise beyond early childhood. They just got older. When listing things to someone, they are most likely to remember the first and last items in the list. This can be used when giving someone options and you would rather them choose certain ones without being too obvious if the items on the list aren't particularly out of place. Did not know this one. Will test out in certain scenarios to see for myself. Also, if given multiple choices from a written list and all are equally valid, people tend towards the one in the middle. Same goes for politically charged options. Presenting an extreme left policy, an extreme right, and a central policy, and assuming the person you're talking to has an open mind and no gigantic biases, they'll skew towards the middle one. This same principle goes for price. People don't like to buy the cheapest thing on the market, but the most expensive is often seen as unnecessary luxury, so they go for an option closer to the middle of the price range. Placebo works even when you know it's a placebo. This is pretty surprising to me. Pavlovian training is the same. My life is run by placebos and Pavlov. I used to call people who had committed fraud when working in banking. Silence is such a wonderful thing when trying to get people to talk. They naturally feel awkward and try to fill the silence. My supervisor at work tries this all the time. I just let it be awkward. It's really just efficient if people do mind the awkward or are nervous. But it's also really funny being on the receiving end of the silence and just wait till they can't pull off their own stuff anymore and it starts working against them. If you want someone to like you more, ask them for a small favor, something they're likely to say yes to. It seems counterintuitive. You might expect that doing a favor for them is the way to go, but no, the brain is constantly justifying. So while they're doing a favor for you, the brain will logic out, why am I doing this? I must like that person enough to do this for them, and they'll like you more. Of course this has a limit. Ask them for too much too often and it'll backfire for sure, but used right it works really well. It works way better if you thank them very enthusiastically afterwards. Plus, subconsciously they feel you owe them, which also builds relationships. This makes it more likely they'll feel comfortable around you and ask you for favors. Give kids a choice when trying to get them to do something. Would you like broccoli or carrots with lunch? When trying to get them to eat. Do you want mom or dad to tuck you in? When trying to get them to go to bed. It's not 100% by any means, but giving them the power of choice helps them feel in control and less likely to freak out. It might work with adults too, tbh. I just use it with my niece and things go so much smoother. 15 minutes before bedtime. Do you want to go to bed now or in 15 minutes? The false choice is the best with kids. It does work with adults. Also to do with the social awkwardness of challenging someone who's assumed a yes answer. It's a commonly taught sales technique. While walking on a crowded street, keep looking to the path you want to go. Most people will avoid getting in your way. Unless you're a high school student who lives in my area. I walk to work and usually need to get there right to school lets out. Can't tell you how many people seem to intentionally get in my way. They're high school students. They are intentionally getting in your way. Just walk right through them. They will learn to conform to society's norms. If someone has hiccups, ask them, hey, what's tofu made of? It works like 80% of the time. A Japanese person taught me this trick. Apparently it's common there. It even works on me, and I know both this trick and what tofu is made of. I ask them another term for an uneducated bumpkin. They usually say hick. I was eating at a restaurant on holiday once and I had the worst hiccups ever. The type of hiccups that you can't even speak a sentence because they're so violent. A lady on the table next to me turned round and said, "Excuse me, if you can do 2 hiccups in the next 10 seconds I'll give you £10. Those ducking hiccups disappeared right then because I was trying so hard to hiccup. Now whenever somebody has hiccups, this is what we do and it always works. Until it doesn't. And you have to pay up £10. When you ask someone for something, smile a little and nod your head almost imperceptibly. I almost always get what I'm asking for when I do this. Feels like a Jedi mind trick. I think people just like making someone happy and don't want to ruin the moment. My husband pointed out to me that our oldest child uses this and rhetoric to get what she wants. She's 4. "Can I have a juice?" Before we can answer, she's shaking her head yes while also saying, "Yes, I can have juice." The way you describe it felt a little less subtle. Listen more than you talk, and when you talk, prove that you listened. So I should listen more than I talk, and when I do so, I should prove that I listened. I got that right. Mirroring a person's body language makes them feel more positive towards you, as if you two have something in common. Just don't make it too obvious. Stay subtle or they might feel put off. That's how I ended up best friends with the guy jerking it on the NYC subway. Match the tone and pace of another person's speaking style. It connects you on a subconscious level and they are more trusting of you. Whenever one of my customers have an accent, if the conversation lasts long enough, I'll start to slowly mimic their accent. I don't do this on purpose. Been there. It's weird. My favorite isn't super useful, but I use it to mess with my coworker. Often if you are in a conversation, you can just hand someone something and they will usually willingly take it so long as you don't break the conversation. This is because they are distracted and paying attention to what you are saying. I use this to just hand random stuff to my coworker for no reason. Usually he laughs and tells me to stop doing that before making me take it back. It also usually takes him a minute or two to realize when the item I gave him was something from his desk. I've done this to my younger sister for most of her life. Say I've been drinking a can of pop, and I've finished it while I'm talking to her. I'll just hand it to her during the conversation, and she'll take it every time. Then I can walk away and she has to dispose of it. Sucker. Reverse psychology. Just moved in with 2 friends who are a couple. Girl accomplishes getting boy to do things she wants done but doesn't know how to do herself. Cooking certain meals, starting fire in the wood stove, etc. by trying to do them in front of him. After which he'll exclaim, "Lem, do it." You don't know what the duck you're doing because he usually won't do it if asked. It's like how the best way to get an answer on the internet is not to ask the question, but rather to give the wrong answer. It's called Cunningham's Law. If you want to avoid conflict, sit next to the person you think might be aggressive. It's more difficult to be aggressive towards someone you're sitting next to than someone across from you. Tell a joke. When people laugh, they tend to look to whom they feel closer to in that room. This is sweet but also kind of worrying. Imagine telling a joke and your soul looks at someone else. That's actually a risk. Understate yourself and your accomplishments by 15%. I've always known this as underpromise and overdeliver. Jewelers do this and mechanics too. That'll be about 2 weeks before it's ready for you to collect. Then 2 or 3 days later, "Hi, this is Bill from Wheels and Gems and I pulled some strings with the lads in the exhaust studding department to get your Honda Civic to the front of the line. You can come collect it now." Then the customer is all like, "I'm special," and tell all their friends how good they are. If someone is being a dong, tell them they have something in their teeth that will make them feel self-conscious and weird, and should end their dongishness. Works every time. "Hey, you've got dong in your teeth. Dong." I heard this the other day. Apparently if you pick a word someone is using and smile each time they say that particular word, they will start to say the word more often. For example, someone is talking about dogs, and if you smile when they say dog, then they'll say dog more often. Probably the word that makes me smile the most is food. Your body creates a lot of associations that aren't actually there. It will associate wearing work clothes with having to focus, and wearing loungewear with relaxing. So if you work from home, or can wear casual clothing at work, It may be worth it to actually put on a pair of slacks for productivity's sake, if your brain has actually made the connection. Here's what I've learned. Human beings have an innate instinct to pick up on little tricks and learn to be disgusted by them. Smiling is good, and makes people like you more, unless you do it too much, in which case you will terrify people. A strong handshake is a good thing, unless you make it too strong. Then you come off as a classless douche. Using a girl's name in a sentence can help fast track intimacy between you and her. I've heard so many girls complain about guys using their name too much. Just look at ads and how aggressive they have to be now compared to in the past. Our shields are up. Human beings are adept at picking up on little psychological tricks used against them, even if they don't know it. So, in other words, most of these answers will work in the short term, but have a high potential of making you off-putting in the long run. About the ads, I've actually just learned that some people, besides doing so consciously, also subconsciously avoid looking at the spot on a page where advertisement banners are placed. It's, very appropriately, called banner blindness. When parting from a conversation or phone call, say something other than goodbye. Most people replying will repeat your words. You, bye, them, bye, me, booga booga, brick brick brick. Fake it till you make it when it comes to confidence. It's true. Then you'll realize how many other people are faking it too. This is actually how I got confidence. I would emulate the behavior of a confident character in a show I really enjoyed, and then with time that became my own behavior. Now I can talk to more or less anyone without feeling particularly worried, and I used to have social anxiety. People's feet are often an insight into what they're thinking. For example, if you approach two people talking and they turn their torso to you but not their feet, they'd prefer you left them alone. Similarly, if you're talking to someone and their feet are pointing away from you, they want to escape. And if they're up around their shoulders, then they really like you. When giving verbal instructions, say the thing you want the listener to do instead of the thing you want them to avoid. What brand should we buy? All of them are good except for brand X. Stay away from X. Later, we got brand X just like you said. The brand name stuck in their mind but they forgot you were telling them to avoid it. Happens with a lot of things. This reminds me of my friend who likes whiskey. He got a specific brand he didn't want for his birthday because, according to the giver, you talk about it a lot, so I guess you like it. Don't expect anything from anyone and you will never be let down. Points to head and smiles. Most people's sense of emotion outweighs their sense of logic. If you can take emotion out of the equation, you can gain the upper hand in many situations by logically assessing where the other person's emotions will guide their thinking. Then you can use logic to determine when to sprinkle some emotion of your own in there and when to say what will get exactly the emotional response you want. So this is how people manipulate others knowingly. Usually people cannot control emotion, but action based on logic is a conscious choice. I can see where this comes from and it's terrifying. Understand how people's behaviors can be different depending on the context. For examples, studies have shown that judges will give harsher sentences when they are hungry. So just because someone is nice, mean, rude, etc. in one situation, doesn't mean they will act that way in all situations. This is known as the fundamental attribution error. People have a tendency to believe that other people's actions are based on their own internal characteristics as opposed to external factors. For example, if they see someone slip, they will think, that person is clumsy, whereas if they, themselves slip, they will think, the floor is too slippery. This is related to another psychological concept, the self-fulfilling prophecy. The idea is that you can cause something to be true based on positive feedback between your belief and your behavior. For example, this person was curt to you before, so you assume they are rude. When you talk to them again, you raise your voice. In turn, that person senses your hostility and responds in a brusque manner, thereby confirming to you that this person is rude. Whereas if you can realize that perhaps this person was rude because they just had a bad day, then your future interactions might be different. Of course, sometimes people are just a-holes. There's a thing I was taught during counseling, to take notice of your body on a physical level. For example, a deep breath or sigh, bouncing leg, butterflies, restless hands, clenched shoulders, tight chest, that kind of thing. and not judge them. Just take notice. Taking note of these things help me relax and be less anxious mentally for whatever reason, and to identify the feelings associated. I forget what it's called, but it helped me a whole bunch. Make any kid you know well smile. When they are moody, pull out a smile gun mimicking a weapon. Slowly point it at them. They will crack a smile almost always. Point guns at kids. Got it? I think this hit front page recently on some big subreddit, but in an emergency avoid the bystander effect by talking directly to specific people. You call 911. You write down the license plate number. You get a first aid kit, etc. Give specific instructions to specific people. More so just interesting to see. Move your arms occasionally to various positions or perform various minor gestures, such as crossing them. It works better in one-on-one conversations more, but you'll notice the other person will tend to do the same action. Most people aren't aware of it. Funny to point out later. It's a subconscious thing we tend to do to socially fit in with the majority. Physical contact can be incredibly influential when used properly. A nice slap on someone's back when greeting them, if well done, can give the impression of comfort and put your company at ease. Comfortable body language and light, appropriate touching does wonders for your charisma. Also, men don't like to be approached and spoken to directly. Try to interact with them from the side, or slightly tilt yourself from directly facing men to make them feel more comfortable while speaking with you. The Ole Q trick. Ask someone to draw an imaginary Q on their forehead. What you're looking for is the way the little swish on the Q goes. If they draw it to their right, your left, then that means they are drawing it as they would naturally see it and are only conscious of their perception. To you it would look backwards. However, if they draw it to their left, your right, then they are actively conscious of how you perceive it and want it to be facing you the correct way. People who do this method are more inclined to be good liars and or manipulators. If you want to convince someone to change their mind on a topic, use different words than they use instead of paraphrasing or using their words. Paraphrasing another person's dialogue to make them believe you're a good listener. 1 in 5 women and 1 in 20 men admit to sleeping with a cuddly toy on a regular basis. So teddy bear may be a good present both for women and men. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.